I was living in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is the headquarters of Procter and Gamble. And I was actually arrested one day. Well, it was a technical arrest. It was like more like a slapping me with a fine for not having a permit to distribute flyers. But I dressed up in this bunny suit with PETA, the people for the ethical treatment of animals. We went around. We went around. We had this car. They had this car that was all painted up like the Tide car. That's like the big NASCAR or Indy 500, whatever that is. The NASCAR. That's all Tide. Like it's like it's a Procter and Gamble like Tide detergent car. It's got the big. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So they made a parody off that. PETA's pretty creative with the parodies that they come up with, and they made it died like DIED, and saying like animals died for your laundry, and they painted up this car that looked just like the Tide car and drove it all over like spreading awareness about animal abuse. So we had this car, and then I was dressed up in a bunny suit, and then we were going around distributing these flyers that was a parody off of Mr. Clean, which is another product that they make. And this was Mr. Mean, which they were targeting the CEO of the company at the time. It was John Pepper, and we went to his very home and neighborhood, and they knew we were coming because we had sent out a press release. So they had all this security guards and cops and stuff around his home, so we couldn't even go up to his door. So we just went around to all his neighbors and distributing these flyers and stuff, and then we were arrested for, distributing flyers without a permit. So I mean that's the kind of like. That's the kind of direct action I kind of engaged in with Procter & Gamble. It was kind of fun and kind of low-key. It wasn't super drastic as far as, prison sentences go.
How did you come up with your name, Tre Arrow?
As far as my name goes, like I didn't really resonate with the name that my parents gave me at birth for much of my life. Like, I mean, there were times where I was like, it's okay. And people were like, oh, I like it. And yet it was a really common name, and I just was always meeting other people with the same name and just like trying to distinguish like who's who, and I just was annoyed with that, and I really wanted a unique name that was not super common and something that I identified with. And so, I did a lot of like spiritual questing. I did a vision quest. I've done like a lot of native traditional like ceremonies and learning different traditions, and certainly a lot of like spiritual quests and searching and asking and kind of really making an effort to find some meaning in my life. Like, what's the reason that I'm here? What am I really supposed to do in my life? Certainly it's more than just like making money for some silly business or corporation so I can buy a house and have a car and, all the silly things that our culture tells us is pretty much all that we are designed to do, and the greatest that we can be is just basically consumers and like towing the status quo line. And I knew that was just a bunch of BS, and that really was not for me. And so there was a time where I was really going through a serious, like kind of a rebirthing and a spiritual kind of renewal. And this name came to me, and as I look at it as like a gift from my ancestors and from my angels and my spirit guides, is like, this is your name, this is your identity, this is who you are. And I really resonated with it. And so since that time, that was 2000. So for almost 10 years, I've been going by Tre Arrow.
Cool. Speaking about spirituality, I managed to pull up that Rolling Stone article.
Yeah, you found it.
Yeah, I found it online. And I think one of the paragraphs that kind of stuck out to me was like they were talking about I got it quoted here. Tre experienced life in the resistance camp, a sort of perpetual religious service conducted in an evergreen cathedral. And then they just kind of like go on and on and on. And it's a little weird that they were trying to paint you in this crazy light, even though it sounds perfectly legitimate to see nature as a cathedral or as a spiritual place. Like, where do you think and why modern society lost their connections with nature?
Wow. I think that's a pretty in-depth, multi-layered answer, and I mean a few things to kind of keep it succinct. In my opinion, is that really I do have a very strong spiritual connection to this planet and to all beings, and that's actually the impetus behind the activism that I engage in, whether people realize that or not. Like, I really know, whether other people acknowledge it or not, that we are all connected, that we are all one family, whether we're trees, whether we're humans, whether we are all the wildlife, all the plant life. We are all interconnected. In the symbiotic relationship between all of the flora and the fauna of these sacred ecosystems throughout the planet is something that is, I think, a lot of people either one can't comprehend, two don't take the time to kind of take a step back and really appreciate or even look into. And it's something that for me is a really poignant kind of and pungent kind of reality in our culture, certainly in our culture here, that I really consider all of the rubber that is used, whether it's on the bottoms of shoes or on all of the automobiles that people drive, all of the concrete and the steel, all of the structures that people choose to live in, and certainly a lot of the things that people eat and the things that they put on or in their body literally keep all these things I just mentioned literally keep people disconnected from the planet. And even just the simple act of what might seem like such a simple, harmless act of wearing shoes that are lined with rubber, literally, that's why if you're sitting in a vehicle and you get struck by lightning, you don't get electrocuted because the rubber keeps you literally insulated and disconnected, separated from the earth. Mm-hmm. And so I always say to people, the more that you go barefoot, that you spend time in nature, whether it's hiking, whether it's walking, whether it's sitting in a park eating your lunch, whether it's going and swimming in the ocean, spending time with the trees, in whatever fashion people do it, if they just get away from the city, get away from the concrete and the steel and the asphalt, and get direct connection with the earth, I really think that spiritual voice, that spiritual connection is comes through, is more able to be received and is clearer and is more profound. And so I argue that the more that people spend time in nature, the more that they grow connected to it, reconnected to it, and realize the importance to protect it. And I really do think that the way that our culture is set up, once again, a lot of it has to do with media and TV and kind of the whole objectification of nature, the whole programming that like all that is on this planet is an anthropocentric view of everything is for us. We are allowed to exploit, consume, destroy, pillage anything we want because we are this one species that's apparently, people claim that we are the most intelligent species, which I argue is not the case, and that we are at the top of the food chain, and we're the most, we have souls, and other beings don't have souls, and so we have the right to do all these things. And I strongly disagree with all of those premises as a reason to do what we do to the planet, because the thing is that, especially in our culture, we consume the world's the majority of the world's resources, and we don't even make up 1/10 of the world's population. And so I think that if people turned off their TV, stopped listening to mainstream media, stopped driving in automobiles, even started living in structures that were more earth-friendly, like sustainable kind of materials that were round and not square, because all energy moves in circles. It does not. It's very unnatural to build structures to live in that are four walls, that are square and rectangular, and it's there's all kinds of like theories and philosophies behind the way that we construct things and to be more in harmony with the rhythms of nature, of the earth, of the moon and the sun and the stars and so forth. So, and certainly I think if people spent more time in nature, that they would really start to reconnect with it. And so those are some of my thoughts about the reason why people are so disconnected.
Cool.